Dr. Mohan, let me take you to, before we go to the study, let's begin with the role of plant proteins in diabetes management. A lot of plant proteins are flying off the shelves. Let's begin with one such, moringa leaves.
Thank you, Ms. Rinko Ghosh, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this very prestigious program. So you're quite right that today a lot of talk about plant proteins. And if you talk about plant proteins in general, they are very good. There's no doubt about it, because most of the plant proteins are also very rich in fiber. And therefore, in the control of diabetes and the prevention of diabetes, it's nice to include plant proteins, and we'll discuss about those separately. You raised the issue of the moringa leaves, and moringa leaves is, I won't typically put it under a plant protein derivative, and in that classification, I would put it more under a healthy nutrition. Now, because moringa leaves would more come under a green leafy vegetable. Of course, moringa, all parts of moringa are used. It's not just the leaves. The moringa, the drumstick itself is loaded with nutrients and so on. But here we're talking about the moringa leaves. And there is no doubt that the moringa leaves, if you like, and of course, they are used in curries, both as leaves separately, and the drumstick itself can be taken in sambar and other things. So it's a multi-purpose food item. It's been popular for centuries. It's nothing new. And
Yeah, exactly.
the ancient scripts have talked about it, and it's a very, very nutritious thing. So there's nothing new about it. But a lot of medicinal properties are being described. It has antioxidant property, anti-inflammatory property. If you take enough of it, of course, it gives you all the vitamins, minerals, and generally promotes health. It helps in the correction of anemia. There is some reports that it also helps to control the sugar levels, the blood sugar levels in people with diabetes. But those reports are quite small, I must say. And so as a anti-diabetic drug or as a medicine, we should not yet place moringa leaves there. But since it is very good for health in general and for people with diabetes in particular, we can and we should consume this fairly regularly, and it will definitely improve your health. If it has additional benefits like reducing the blood glucose levels, so be it. Some of these have been done mostly in animal studies. Human studies actually showing this in large numbers are still missing. We perhaps have to do those studies now.
Okay, so there's this craze for moringa powder, dried moringa leaves. So, what do you think should be the right alternative in the diet to have in such a case? I mean, should we have the drumstick itself, which is more fibrous? If you can take us through how practically can moringa be used in diabetes and lifestyle, the larger lifestyle management?
I think drumstick is very, very good. So I think we should not forget about the use of drumstick itself in curry. And if you take the internal part of the drumstick, it is very, very nutritious, no doubt about it. I personally take it regularly. And in many Indian dishes all over India, I think drumstick is used. Leaves are used little less, and but they are very tasty if you make them part of the curry. It's very healthy, very nutritious, and very tasty. So it can be used that way. Now, the moment you start making it into powder and dried and powder and all that, I'm afraid you lose some of the ingredients. For example, the fiber content may go down when you powder it, and it's better to take it as leaves or as drumstick rather than making it into a capsule. This is not a medicine. That's what I'm saying. We should not medicalize it and try to say it is equal to metformin or equal to something else. You've got enough medicines for that. You don't have to make moringa into a leaf now and powder it and then make it into a medicine, because we don't have the studies to support that. So if you have the studies to say that if you take this, your insulin can be stopped or tablets can be stopped, then that can be done. That kind of data we do not have. And we should not expect also. When you've got something which is good as a vegetable, take it anyway. Of course, we can always do studies to see whether there are any additional benefits, but let's not medicalize it and make it into a medicine and say this is where the hype will start, because the commercial elements immediately come in. The moment people see money in it, then they'll start hyping it, and then they'll start claiming that it can cure anything, right from cancer to arthritis to, I used to even joke and say even divorce rates will come down if you take this. So to that extent, people will keep on hyping it all the time until people lose faith in it. It'll cure arthritis, it'll cure this one, it'll cure anemia, it'll cure cancer, blood pressure, heart disease, everything on Moringa leaf. Then mean you don't need anything else. Just take Moringa all your life and you'll be through. When something is very good, it's like yoga. When yoga is good, yoga is extremely good. All of us should do it. We will live longer. We'll have healthier lives. But you start claiming that everything in the world will be cured by it without solid scientific evidence, then people will begin to lose faith in it.
Sure, and I think that is a very important point you touched upon, because it's not just about Moringa leaves. There are a whole lot of herbal plant-based food and herbal supplements that people keep talking about in management of diabetes, and particularly now with pre-diabetes. The study showed that Indians, a large chunk of Indians, are actually probably in the pre-diabetes stage. So I mean, what would you advise an Indian in terms of the right diet to manage diabetes in particular and lifestyle diseases at large?
So the main problem with the Indian diet, whether it is North Indian, South Indian, West Indian, East Indian, Central, or even the Northeast, is that we consume too much of carbohydrate. In the South and in the East and in the Northeast, it is rice. In the central part and North and the West, it is wheat. So whether it's wheat or rice, or in some parts even ragi or bajra or one of the other millets, very rarely in northern Karnataka and a few places, millets are also consumed, bajra and jawar and sorghum and so on. But those are very small. Mainly it's rice and wheat. Rice and wheat will be 80-90% what India consumes. Now, not that these are bad. These have been around for a long time and they are a staple food. They give us energy, carbohydrates. They give us some protein, and therefore, as a staple food, they are very good. The problem is when you take it in excess. So when you take too much of rice and too much of wheat, the glycemic load goes up in the diet. And so you develop diabetes, you put on weight, abdominal obesity comes in, and it will lead to heart disease and all the other metabolic non-communicable diseases. So another thing that we lack in our diet is protein, especially for vegetarians. The non-vegetarian somehow can get enough protein. But again, there is a fallacy, because when we say non-vegetarian, see, suppose you do a survey, you go around and you're doing a survey of everyone. Are you vegetarian or non-vegetarian? If you take one piece of chicken once a week, you will say you're a non-vegetarian because you take non-veg food. A vegetarian, no, I don't take. So that is the difference between a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian. Now, how much non-vegetarian food does a non-vegetarian take? Very little, maybe once a week. One piece of chicken or fish once a week, something like that. Now that doesn't give you enough protein. So if you're a non-vegetarian who's taking non-veg fairly regularly, at least 4 days, 5 days in a week, you have either fish or egg or chicken or whatever else you're taking, other meats or whatever, then you are probably getting enough protein. But if you're a pure vegetarian, you're not taking any of these, then to get protein in your diet is very difficult. And what happens is, whereas you should be getting about 20% protein in your diet, you'll end up with 8% protein or something, which is not enough, which is why muscular build of Indians is not there. And which is why in the Olympic Games and all that, we don't win many medals, because our protein content is low and our muscle content is low. We have more fat and less of muscle. So it's very simple. What the ICMR INDIAB study showed is that if we cut down the carbohydrate from the, say, 65-70% carbohydrate which whole India is taking now, to say 50%, that's all that is needed. just bring it down to 50%. You don't have to bring it to 0%, 10%, ketogenic diet, keto diet. All these are not needed at all. Just cut down 10 to 15% of the carbohydrate. Replace that carbohydrate with protein. So if you add the protein content from 8%, you add 10, 12%, it will become 20%. Already you have got 50% carbohydrate. So what is the remaining 30%? 25 to 30%, you can have protein, the fat, and that fat can be healthy fats coming from monounsaturated fat or polyunsaturated fat, not saturated fat. Saturated fat is what solidifies at room temperature. For example, ghee or vanaspati and things like that. Whatever oils or fats solidify at room temperature, they're full of saturated fat. Whereas those which remain liquid, like the vegetable oils, like groundnut oil or gingerly oil or mustard oil or even sunflower oil or any of the rice bran oil, those are the vegetable oils which are more containing monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat, what we call as the unsaturated fats. Those are healthy. So 30% of that, and then protein. No, I said vegetarian should take protein. So where does that vegetarian protein come from? Vegetarian protein comes from Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, and all the legumes, rajma, mushroom. Now these are all the vegetable protein. Milk also will give you some protein, and of course if you are not averse to taking egg, then either white of the egg or even the full egg will give you the protein. And paneer also will give you some protein, and tofu will give you protein. So look for the protein, and if you're able to add that, then it will become okay. Now when you say 50%, 20%, 30%, and all that, it sounds like technical jargon, and people may not be able to relate to that. So we have introduced what is called as a plate concept. So the plate concept means that you take a thali or a 9-inch plate, which is the plate in which you put your food. Now what you do is, instead of filling the plate with rice or wheat as the first step when you start to eat, look for the vegetables. So half of that plate, 50%, you reserve for vegetables, and then 25%, quarter of that plate, you keep for protein, either vegetable protein, which I just described, or the non-vegetarian protein. Now we are left with quarter of the plate. That quarter of the plate alone, you put in your rice or your wheat and so on. So this becomes a very healthy way of eating, something which is very easy for people to remember. And all what I told you about 50% carbohydrate, 25% protein, 20% protein, 20 to 30% fat will all get accounted for if you eat like this. So this is called as the healthy plate concept. I
Now
lost you
talking,
for some time.
yeah, no, that is okay. We just say now, Dr. Mohan, I'll just request you to give a practical guide, a practical guide to a diabetes, a diet for a person living with diabetes. And the tendency of them to rush to anything that is offered off the shelf by way of supplements or nature additives, or moringa, cinnamon, drumstick, whatever be the vegetable. Practically, even if you include them in your diet, how much do they impact the blood sugar control, by how much, and what actually should be what should actually support the dietary regime that you have?
I think you rightly mentioned that it is not necessary to buy off the shelf products, particularly processed foods. If we stay as close to nature as possible, we can't go wrong with our diet. That's why I just mentioned about the plate concept, to make it very simple and practical, that half the plate you fill with green leafy vegetables. We call it as non-starchy vegetables. So when you say non-starchy, straight away your potato and yam, these kind of starchy vegetables are excluded. So whatever else you can think of, whether it is spinach or whether it's moringa or whether it is brinjal, cauliflower, or beans, or any other green leafy vegetable, lettuce, asparagus, you name whatever you want. Any vegetables that are freely available, can even be tomato, cucumber, whatever you want, as a salad. So think of including more salads, think of including more vegetables, and keep that as half of your plate. That it can't be as simpler than this. Is something which you're buying directly from the market, and as far as possible, even without cooking, you can use them, or lightly cooked, not overcooked. Once you overcook the vegetables, they lose all their vitamins and minerals and everything you lose. Then you have the protein part. Look for protein in every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Look for where is my salad or where is my vegetable and where is my protein. If you do that, then straight away you're getting enough protein, vitamins, minerals, iron, vitamin B12, everything you need you're given. Then the carbs part of it, the carbohydrate part of it, have one chapati, maximum two chapatis, or have a few spoons of rice. That's enough. So normally what we do is we eat rice and sambar, rice and rasam, rice and curd, like mountains of rice we'll be eating. That is where we go wrong. So if we realize that we need rice, but we just need probably one small helping of rice, the rest of it is made up by vegetables and protein, and you don't need to buy all these fancy stuff that you go and buy off the shelf because this is good, that is good. Our forefathers didn't go to supermarkets and buy some leaves or buy something else and so on. They bought what is cooked in, or what is prepared in the field or grown in the fields, and simple food they ate, and they lived healthy lives. They didn't have many of these diseases. So I think we should go back to the basics and eat food as close to nature. Fruits can also be taken. So again, fruits, don't drink fruit juices. You can take fruits. So you can take any fruit you like. It can be apple, orange, or satukudi, or watermelon, any papaya, guava. These are all fairly low glycemic index one. Watermelon is slightly higher, but then it's mostly water, so you don't have to worry about that. Guava and apple and the others are lower in the glycemic index. So this can also be taken. If you don't have diabetes, you can take any amount of it. But if you have diabetes, then better to restrict it to one fruit a day or maximum two fruits a day. If you have pre-diabetes, maybe you can have two fruits a day. But those who have diabetes, even one fruit a day will be sufficient. So if you stay close to nature and try not to take the ultra processed foods, because that's where all the additives and coloring agents, preservatives, all kinds of things are added. These are the ones which ultimately are not good for your health. They increase your calories, they make you put on weight. Many of them contain salt and sodium, which will increase your blood pressure. There is hidden sugar in all this, therefore your sugar will also go up.
So thank you, Dr. Mohan, for sharing your insights with us. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers and readers will benefit from them. Thank you so much. Looking forward to meeting you again.